This VATAS training video is going to discuss building schedules with crossover tours for Title 38 hybrid and healthcare workers. This is also for employees who are new to VATAS or beginning a crossover tour schedule. So once again, this training video is going to discuss schedules which contain crossover tours, specifically for Title 38 hybrid and healthcare workers. It is also for employees who are either new to VATAS or beginning a crossover tour schedule. Having said that, we are currently logged into VATAS and we are at the Timekeeper main menu. We will begin by clicking on Employee Schedules List View because this is where we will be building our schedules from. It defaults to showing us the current pay period and schedules with a status of approved. If the employee you're looking for is not in this list, change the status and check a different status. The employee who we will be using for this example has the last name full-time, first name LPN. We find them and we select their name. Something that is extremely important to remember, because this is for employees who are new to VATAS or beginning a crossover tour schedule, we first must build a temporary schedule to bring hours into that current permanent schedule. And the reason is because the hours flow into that day the tour crosses over into. So we need to first add a temporary schedule. We will be building the permanent schedule for the current pay period, which is pay period 17 of 2017. That means we must build this temporary schedule for the prior pay period 16. We first must name the schedule, and with all of these examples, I will be using the format that I like to use, which is the employee's last name and the date that schedule is going to begin. And this schedule is going to begin on 8/6/2017. You may also want to put in the description that this is for VATAS Go Live if you are an employee on VATAS just going live. If you are beginning a crossover schedule, you could put that in the description. Beginning crossover tour or schedule. Okay? The weeks, it is defaulted to 2. We will not need to change that. The start date, it is defaulted to the first day of the current pay period. So we will need to change this. We'll click on our calendar. The prior pay period began on August 6th, so I will select August 6th. The end date, we will click on our calendar. I will arrow back over to August, and the end date is August 19th. I now have my correct dates. The schedule this employee is going to be working will be Tuesday through Saturday, 11:30 p.m. until 8 a.m. So there's our tour of duty that is crossing over, all right? I will first go to week 1, and I'll select the day box, and I will then uncheck Sunday and Monday of each week. I then select my orange Insert Tour button. I've already looked up the tours of duty that I will be using to build our employee schedule, and I know that 11:30 p.m. until 8 a.m. is 0355, and I looked that up in the tours of duty link on the Timekeeper main menu. I type it in, click search. I have my one result. I click it, turn it dark blue, and I then select OK. If I were to try to submit this schedule as is, you can see I would be short 7.5 hours because I only have 32.5 hours in week 1. I have the correct 40 hours in week 2, and that is because I have 7.5 hours rolling into week 2 from week 1. And that is on that Saturday, 11:30 p.m. until 8 a.m. From midnight until 8 a.m. with the lunch, 7.5 hours is rolling into week 2. The same thing is happening on that second Saturday of the pay period. We have 7.5 hours rolling out of the pay period, which is why we are short hours. What you must do is you need to pick a day the employee is off. And for this example, I'm going to pick the first Sunday. The employee is not working that first Sunday. And I will put a check in the box. What I'm going to do is find a day to post the missing 7.5 hours. So I want to, again, find a day the employee is off just to put in the missing 7.5 hours. I click Insert Tour. I've also already looked this up, and the tour that I'm going to use is 0024, and I search. 0024 is midnight to 8 a.m. with a 30-minute meal, 7.5 hours. And although you may be thinking to yourself, well, the employee didn't actually work that, it's okay. The employee has already had a timesheet processed for this prior pay period. This is only to get the hours to roll into the current pay period's schedule. Now we have the correct 40 hours in week 1 and 40 hours in week 2. We will click Submit, and we have our blue banner of success telling us that we have successfully submitted the work schedule. We will now use our breadcrumb, hyperlink, cookie crumb, whatever each of you likes to call it, and we will go back to our schedule assignment. Now we will build our permanent schedule, and here is our pending temporary schedule that we just built. We will add a permanent schedule. And again, everything in VATAS only needs to be clicked one time. If whatever you're trying to accomplish does not happen automatically, give it a moment to load. And we see that's what's happening right here. We see that our screen is loading. For the name, once again, I'll use our employee's last name and the date the schedule is going to begin, 8/20/2017. And this time I'm just going to leave the description blank. The start date is correctly defaulted to the first day of the current pay period, and the end date has forever in there, and that is because you will never put an end date on a permanent schedule. Something very important that I want to point out is our 7.5 hours that we have rolling into that first day of our permanent schedule. Had we not built that temporary schedule, we would not have these 7.5 hours rolling into our permanent schedule. We now can select the day box and uncheck Sunday and Monday of each week. We can click the orange Insert Tour, and remember the tour of duty that we are wanting to use is the 11:30 p.m. until 8 a.m. 0355. I've already looked it up. I type in 0355 and search. I get my one result. I select it and turn it dark blue. I then click OK. And now we are going to correctly have 40 hours in week 1 and 40 hours in week 2. Remember, if you have anyone who teleworks, make sure you indicate that in the telework code drop-down box. We're going to scroll down and we're going to submit. Give it a moment, and we have our blue banner of success telling us that we have successfully submitted the work schedule. Remember, you must always confirm and verify that the AWS code or alternate work schedule code is correct. And on the right-hand side, we see the AWS code is currently a 6, which says compressed schedule. Now, you may look at this and you may think to yourself, well, this is 5 days a week, 8 hours per day, 40 hours per week. But because this schedule has tours which cross over midnight, it automatically becomes an AWS code of 6, which means this AWS code is correct. If the AWS code were not correct, we would scroll to the bottom and we would select the employee timesheet profile button, which would take us to the employee's timesheet profile where we could then change the AWS code. Let's go back to our Timekeeper main menu. And thank you for watching this VATAS training video on building schedules which contain a crossover tour for Title 38 hybrid and healthcare workers who are new to VATAS or just beginning a crossover tour schedule. Thank you again.